So the first thing I tell myself to take more rest days. I used to train every day thinking more was better, but no, less is more. If you're training hard when you are in the gym, you need to recover. Your muscles get little micro tears in them. They need time to recover. Also, your nervous system, you get like a central nervous system fatigue where you're just sort of tired no matter what muscle you do in the next day. Say you do chest one day, but you've absolutely exhausted and you've got legs the next day. The legs might be fresh, but your nervous system that controls the legs, that is still fatigued and needs recovery. The next thing I tell myself is stop worrying about bench press. It was a big thing, not as much anymore, but when I was growing up training, what's your bench? And I was obsessed with it, and I didn't think I'd get a good chest workout unless I benched. Problem is, I got a lot of injuries. Shoulders started aching. As I started getting stronger, it just got worse and worse, and I knew it with the bench press, but every Monday, which will come to another point, I were on that bench press, knowing it was going to hurt, but my ego just couldn't let it down. Now there's better methods. If you know exactly what the pec muscles do, they don't know they're on a bench press or a cable or a pec deck or a dip or a fly. You can stimulate the muscle, get it to grow, and reduce the risk of injury. You see, basically, without getting too technical, the biomechanics of how your body works, your shoulder blades need to retract and protract, basically movement in the shoulder blades for your shoulder girdle to work properly. So when you're lying on a bench, especially get heavier and heavier, your shoulder blades get compressed into the bench, can't move, so the extra movement has to come from the glenohumeral joint, so basically your shoulder, that ball and socket joint. That has to have this anterior lurking, which bangs into the bicep tendon, can cause tendonitis, and the rotator cuff gets involved. So give this one a try. Obviously, the heavier you get, the more you need support of something. Otherwise, you're going to be limited by your core strength. So we're still using a bench, but it's lower down. It's just below the shoulder blades. So it's letting the shoulder blades move back and forth, not causing any biomechanical restrictions and having to use excess movement from like the GH joint, where that's where the rotator cuff and the bicep tendon starts to get involved. So you're still getting a solid base, but you're allowed in that freedom of movement. Your pec muscles do not know if it's on a bench press, a cable, a dip. All they know is tension. They're just detecting tension. The next thing I'd tell myself is train body parts more frequently. This typical bro split is what I used to start with. I'd do like chest on a Monday, back on a Tuesday, legs on a Wednesday, blah, blah, blah. So basically you're doing like 1 or 2 body parts a day. So chest will always be on a Monday, for example. Whereas it's looking like muscles recover a lot sooner than you think. It doesn't need 7 days before you train your chest again. So if you train your chest again in 2 or 3 days, you're getting multiple chest stimulation workouts throughout the week. So say you train your chest twice a week rather than once, you're stimulating that body part 104 times in a year rather than only 52. So I do something a little bit like this. I would do something like an upper-lower split. Sounds very simple, but it is very effective. So you're getting all your upper body done, say on the Monday, chest, shoulders, back, arms, and then Tuesday you'll do your legs, and then you might have a rest day, and then Thursday you're going back to your upper body. So they're getting stimulated, might be 2 times in the week in this certain split, rather than waiting 7 days, a full 7 days to hit your chest again on the Monday, for example. It's getting a little tickle twice a week. And it goes same for your legs. They're getting hit twice a week. So as you can see from this, it's strength and hypertrophy. So it doesn't have to get that technical, but it is quite fun playing around. So on the strength days, you might do lower reps. On the hypertrophy days, you might do higher reps. It just keeps it interesting. There is a lot of science behind it, but we won't get into all that now. So the main message is body parts can be trained multiple times a week for better results. There's just a little caveat to that. Say you do like 10 sets for your chest on a Monday when you were doing this bro split before. You want to lower your volume in that session, which means the total amount of sets that you do. Because you're going to be training your chest potentially 2 or 3 days later, you don't want to annihilate it. Plus, there's not enough time in the session. It'll take hours and hours. So just a couple of sets per body part can be enough because you're going to be doing it again very soon. I won't spend too long on this one, but basically, I'd do a lot less cardio. If my number one goal was trying to build as much muscle as possible, you've got to look at it like if you chase 2 rabbits, you catch none. So say 1 rabbit's muscle building, 1 rabbit's cardio. If you're trying to chase both, you're not putting 100% into both. It's not physically possible. Obviously, if it's your sport and you enjoy it and you need fitness as well, this is just for pure sort of bodybuilding mass. Put all your energy, all your effort into the weights. Instead of doing the cardio when you could be recovering, could be eating, give it a try. And the last thing I tell my younger self if I was trying to get as big as possible, prioritize your sleep. It sounds silly, it sounds like, oh, I'll be okay, but you spend a third of your life asleep, so that shows how important it is. If you live to 90 years old, you'll sleep for 30 of those years. That is crazy. So that shows it is very, very important. You don't grow in the gym, you grow outside the gym when you're rested. It's also highly linked to having higher testosterone levels. Okay, if you're awake for too long, cortisol stays higher and that blocks testosterone. So testosterone is made when you're asleep, basically. So trust me, when I started getting earlier nights, not staying out to 6 in the morning when I was younger, even if I wasn't drinking, I was still tired. I was still missing those growth hormone releases. There's all sorts of physiology behind it, but I'd prioritise my sleep. I'd have a bedtime. I'd have a wake time. Like a baby, babies are always trying to grow. So if you want to grow, sort your sleep out. Cheers, guys.